country who all began to dream the same dream. And when the morning came, there arose across this nation people thinking one and the same. And they awoke to find their freedom and all their liberties had gradually been taken away. And when they realized the danger to their posterity, I heard those patriotic people say, we want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty and our dignity and our freedoms and our rights restored. We want this country back. She's been driven way off track. We're wide awake and we're madder than hell now, and we ain't gonna take it anymore. No, we're not gonna take it anymore. Remember golden days when the stars and stripes forever symbolize her glorious name, America. But now it's all been changed, and when we gaze upon the glory, it's hard to fight back feelings of shame. We're fed up with lying politicians and greedy corporations who have sold us out time and again. And we're sick and tired of sending our soldiers off to wars that we were never meant to win. We want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty and our dignity and our freedoms and our rights restored. We want this country back. She's been driven way off track. We're wide awake and we're madder than hell now, and we ain't gonna take it anymore. No, we're not gonna take it anymore. Now we know our cause is right and our victory's on the way, and we won't give up the fight till we hear 200 million say, we want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty and our dignity and our freedoms and our rights restored. We want this country back, and we ain't taking.
Good afternoon, folks, and this is your host, Maggie Rose, and I'm being brought to you by the Microfact Radio Broadcasting Network, and this is the New Concord Hour, and this is a new day, folks. The American people are waking up. They are not going to take it anymore. We're watching right now on the news. All this morning, my husband and I have been watching on the news the questioning going on towards the director of the FBI. He's basically been talking out of both sides of his mouth, and of course the Democrats are all saying we rehash all the same stuff, and there's going through this again, and there's been plenty of transparency, and obvious, folks, there has not been complete transparency. Obviously, the current Secretary of State and the current FBI director, I don't know if they're afraid or they've been threatened or what is going on, but obviously we, the American people, are not getting the entire truth. And people are beginning to wake up and beginning to realize that. With that said and done, folks, if we cannot trust people at the federal government and even the state government to be honest and follow the law, I'm not even talking about the Constitution. I'm talking about the laws of this land. I'm talking about security concerns. You know, I had a secret clearance for many, many years when I was in the military. My husband and I both had various clearances. And if we had done one-third of what Hillary has done, we would be still sitting in jail or in prison, in a federal prison right now. Why? Above the law. So therefore, we turn around and we look at the local level. We look at people in a local level, county level, that are using state officials and using federal officials in order to grease their own pockets, in order to be able to grab up public lands, to grab up people's private lands. And this is what this is all about, people. Follow the money. It's all about money and greed. Now, we have a guest coming up today. This is a person that my husband and I personally went to meet. We spent hours and hours and hours with him, getting to know him very, very well. And in a moment, we're going to bring him up on the show. You all know him as having been the former fire chief of Harney County, Oregon. And this is a man who is so ethical and so moral, who has integrity and ethics that I just wish more people out there would emulate. Before we bring Chris up, I'd like to play something for you all to hear so you get a bit of an idea. This came from the Next News Network, and it was, people were trying to say that the fire chief had defected to the militia. That's not the case at all. Or that he defected to the Bundy militia. The Bundys did not have a militia, folks. In fact, the Bundys were not intending to even hang around Harney County after standing for the Hammonds at the rally at the Safeway store there in Harney County. BJ Super is the one that put the rally together. And BJ knew very well, as did the Bundys, that they were all going to go home Monday and Tuesday. But they were set up, folks. And that's something very important I would like you to take away from this. They were set up. As even people tried to set up the fire chief. And he saw it coming. And he knew that he could not continue working for the county under Steve Grasky as long as the sheriff was not doing his job and following his oath of office, and as long as Steve Grasky was violating the rights of the people. He did many illegal things in his position. But I'd like to play this first so you can hear what one news commenter had to say.
County authorities were shocked today when one of their own defected to join the armed protesters at Klang National Wildlife Refuge in Briels, Oregon, now known as the Harney County Resource Center. Chris Briels, the Harney County Fire Marshal, resigned his office after he exposed FBI agents pretending to be militia.
Harney County Fire Chief Chris Briels stood next to the leader of the protest, Nevada rancher Ammon Bundy, this morning and announced he turned in his resignation to County Judge Steve Grassley. Briels claims Grassley confronted him about questioning why some undercover FBI agents were at the county armory. He says Grassley basically told him to back off.
In a statement to Nevada Assemblywoman Michelle Font, Briels revealed that the sheriff's office and Judge Steve Grassley engaged in a whisper campaign, spreading lies and falsehoods to the community that the militia has been following and harassing people. It turns out it was allegedly the FBI who was doing the harassing. Local KATU News was on the scene.
I've been told by Steve to distance myself from this committee of safety. I've been told that we don't know what we're doing. I've been told that my life is in danger. I've been told all kinds of things. I will not be told what to do.
Chris Briels was the Burns fire chief from 1984 to 2006. In 2006, Harney County asked him to stay on as the county fire marshal. The resignation was triggered when Briels saw what he thought was militia poking around the county armory. He followed the suspects and pulled them over. It was then, according to Briels, he discovered the men who were posing as militia were actually the FBI.
The other day, a friend of mine spoke to me and suggested that you need to find out what your cohorts are doing at the armory. Because there's people that have been at the armory twice. They've been turned into the police. And I thought, my God. So I followed the people. And I stopped them. But I followed them until they stopped. And I got out and I asked them who they were. They were dishonest. They would not tell me what they were doing. I asked them what they were doing in our armory. What they were doing. Well, we're just two guys going through town looking for a place to have a business. And I said, sir, typically you don't have a business in an armory. Then they said, well, we weren't even push comes to shove, let's just kind of get down to the end of it. I pursued information. I took a picture of their vehicle. I was not allowed to see our county sheriff. I went up there, speak to him. I was told no, I couldn't. I was supposed to call 911. I said, okay, I will call the dispatch. And I called the dispatch. The 911 for emergency, not for detention. Okay, I understand. I don't want to repeat that. They ran the license plate. It came back to undercover FBI agent.
These are extremely damning allegations coming from a top official from within the inner circle of the Harney County authorities, and shows thanks the FBI and local officials will go to deceive the public to protect their own interests. What will happen next is anyone's guess. As for right now, the Bundy militia just scored huge against the federal government and Harney County officials. Subscribe to the channel and we'll keep you updated as more information becomes available.
I hope all of you are able to hear that. I would like to welcome on to the new Concord Hour, Chris Briels. Chris, are you with us? Chris, are you with us? Hello? Chris, are you there?
Yes, Maggie, I am here.
Were you able to hear all that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and is that accurate as far as you remember?
Yes. The only thing, I did not join the militia.
Right. And that was the one thing, is that we wanted to stress to the people out there that you did not join any militia. You were not part of 3%. You were not part of the Oath Keepers. And you were not part of a militia. Even if somebody was a militia member, that's not something to be ashamed of. Do you agree?
Oh, I agree. I was just somebody that did not want to get pushed around, and I felt that it was not correct for FBI to be sneaking around in the city that I live in, and I was told that it was supposed to be a secret. That's wrong.
Exactly. Now, when they told you it was supposed to be a secret, what was your response to Sheriff Ward and Steve Grasky when they said, we don't want anybody in Harney County to know the FBI are here? What were your comments to them?
Well, to clear things up, when I was back down at the armory and the sheriff deputy got the call, he said the two cars that had been there were FBI, and that the black SUV that I had followed and stopped was out of Washington State, and they were undercover FBI, and that is supposed to be a secret. You cannot tell anyone.
Now, so much for transparency, right? Were you aware of the fact that Steve Grasky had contacted Kate Brown and asked her to have Obama send the FBI to Harney County? Were you aware of the fact that this went from Steve Grasky to Kate Brown, and from Kate Brown to Valerie Garrett, who is the right hand of Obama in the White House?
I didn't know it at that time.
Okay, and at that time, were you aware of the fact that Hillary Clinton, now folks, this is the FBI number one, Hillary Clinton number two, who has the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation has been receiving millions of dollars from foreign countries that commit huge human rights abuses. Countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Kuwait, where they will stone a woman to death under Sharia law, even if she has been raped through no fault of her own. Now, does the person that raped her, does the man get stoned to death or put in prison? No. It's the woman that gets stoned to death. And it doesn't matter if she's 13, 14, or 80 years old. So here's Hillary taking money from these countries while she says she wants to be the commander-in-chief and the president of the United States of America, and that she's for gay rights in this country, and she's for the rights of women, for the rights of their bodies, including not being owned in the United States. So here she is, Chris. The Clinton Foundation has been doing deals with Uranium One under Russia and under China to bring Uranium One into Harney County and other counties in Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and Oregon, and do mining and fracking. But they can only do this, Chris, when they get rid of ranchers like the Hammonds and bulldoze their house to the ground. They have to bulldoze these ranchers' homes to the ground, suck up all these lands, not just the land surrounding their personal homes, but their personal homes as well. And people are now aware of the fact that Steve Grasky has to somehow have his fingers financially involved at the very highest levels of government. Would you not agree?
I agree.
So go ahead.
I moved here in 1978 because I thought this was a quiet little place I could raise my family. I had no idea this stuff was going on.
And
but I can find out about it now.
And would you not agree that the reason why the majority of the people in Harney County are not protesting about what's going on in this country, let alone in their own county, is because your county, like many of our other counties throughout the nation, are economically depressed right now, and many of the people working in Harney County are government employees or family members of government employees, and therefore they figure this is where our bread is buttered, this is where we're getting our income. Someday in 30 years, we're going to have a nice, fat government pension check, so therefore they're not willing to stand up to the corruption in their own county because it's like you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, right?
That is correct.
And so is it proper for me to state that the reason why so many of the people in that county are either not taking a stand, take a stand in favor of supporting Grasky is because they want to hang on, or their families can hang on to their government jobs. So basically, they're like Judas. They're willing to take those pieces of silver and sell the rest of their county and their country down the drain. Pieces of silver.
Peggy, while I was helping Kim Rollins collect signatures for the recall on Grasky, I had a lot of people that said, oh yeah, he needs to go, but I can't sign that. I'm afraid that I'll lose my business. If he finds out that I signed it, then I'm done. There were a lot of people that wanted him gone, but were afraid to sign the petition. We got enough people to sign the petition to actually be successful on the recall, except he had 5 days to respond to it, and he responded that he wanted a recall election. And so they did the recall election, and 30% of the people voted to get him out, and the rest of them didn't. And that closely correlates with the percentage of ranchers in this community. There's probably 30% of the people own ranches. That's the people that they're getting affected, and the rest are government employees.
So now, where are we at this point in time right now as far as the ability to get rid of Steve Grasky?
Well, the recall was not successful. The recall was not successful at all. It was successful in letting him know that 1 out of every 3 people doesn't like him. And it was successful in letting the people know that are going to be voted on this fall that we will take a stand against whoever we do not like. Whether we have a chance of winning or not, we're still going to make life miserable for them if they don't step up to the plate and start being honest and helping this county instead of raping it.
Okay, so what my question is, being that you were not able to get it on the ballot, where people then, once it was on the ballot, they would have felt safe to vote against him. But just by signing the request to get it on the ballot, he can read those signatures and know who he can punish in retaliation, right?
Exactly. And
Wow.
there were also false flags. There was one guy that posted a thing in the newspaper that the recall was going to cost Harney County so much money that the seniors would only have one meal a week at the senior center because of the money that it was going to cost Harney County. And that was an outright, total lie. The recall was paid by the state of Oregon.
Okay, so how are you guys able to refute that lie?
The only thing, we don't have a radio station. The only thing we could do is we posted his news article right alongside a statement made by Dag Robinson, the county recorder, that said that the state would reimburse Harney County for everything. But the damage had already been done a lot with the lies. People just hear something and they think it must be true. Or they see something and they think it must be true, but it was not. They lied.
Well, then my question is, if I made a commitment to bring, since you guys don't have a radio station up there, if I made a commitment to bring your people up on my radio show at least once, if not twice a month, in lieu of the fact that you don't have a radio station up there, and if in doing that you could pass out calling cards or business cards letting people in the community know they can safely listen into this show, do you think that therefore we would be able to maybe, if they could hear people like yourself and other people they trust on the radio come on the micro effect, you and I or a couple of your people that you would choose, like, Mr. Davis and some of the other, they don't even have to use their real name to come up here on the radio. They can use a nom de plume if it would make them feel more secure to open up and tell the truth. And if we made a commitment to the people of Harney County that once or twice, even twice a month, we would have a radio station dedicated to the good and positive as well as the not so good going on in Harney County. Do you think, therefore, we can maybe get some of these people to wake up and be willing to try to do another recall?
I don't know if you could do another recall or even if there's time. He's only got about, 4 months until he retires. So I don't know if we'd have time for another recall. But any way that we can let the people know the truth is fine with me. And the more people that you can get to hear the truth, then the better chance you have that they'll actually understand that they've been lied to.
Now, are you telling me, am I hearing you say that Steve Grasky is going to be retiring anyway?
Yes.
Well, then at the end of the day, that's not a bad thing, Chris.
No. Unless he goes on to be intergovernment somewhere else. Maybe he'll go sniffing around Hillary Clinton. Who knows? We don't need him leading anyone. He hasn't led us into anything other than poverty.
And how long has he been in the positions? I understand that he's wearing 2 or 3 different hats in that county, other than just being a county commissioner that wants you all to call him a judge. I still have a hard time with this judge thing. Can you explain that?
Well, it's an elected official, and he's classified as a judge, even though he does not have a bar association. He is not an attorney. He has been the chairperson for the
Commissioners.
County commissioners.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I want you to know that he is supposed to conduct himself under the same rules as any other judge in the state of Oregon. There's a judicial conduct that he is supposed to follow.
Now, with that aside, we're going to be going to a station break here in just about a minute or two. What I would like you to do for when we come back, I don't know if you want to take calls from people or there's people in the chat room that might have some questions of you. So I'll get into the chat room and I can read those questions off if they have any questions for you. Those people that want to call into the show can call into area code 208-935-0094. That's area code 208-935-0094. I'd like us to talk a little bit more about the FBI because right now the FBI is kind of on the hot seat. We've been seeing a lot of things going on with the FBI that cause me to question just how well run they are and how legitimate they are. And at the other side of the hour, I'll bring up a couple of incidences that I know that you personally have some knowledge about, being that you had FBI living and working and basically closing down your town. So when we come back from the station break, I want you to kind of think back in your memory of what happened back in January regarding the FBI and some of your run-ins with the FBI besides this one at the Armory. And then I want us to think about the shooting that took place with police officers. I mean, we have the FBI that we can't trust. We have a police officer that shot and killed a young man who was in the car with his fiancée. They were driving, got pulled over for a broken tail light. And they were black, they were Afro-American, and the man told the police officer, I have a concealed weapons permit, and I have a concealed gun, I want to let you know. And so the police officer wanted his ID and asked for his identification. When the man reached for his wallet and his identification, the police officer that was on the side shot him in the arm and the side and killed him instantly. And the young woman got all this on her phone live. And, of course, now we're going to hear that the police officer was justified. This is what we keep hearing, that the police officers are justified. The mercenaries that were sent, not the FBI and the Oregon State Police that were sent to Harney County, but mercenaries were also sent to Harney County. And between the FBI, the Oregon State Police, and the paid contract killers, the mercenaries, shot and killed Lavoie. Now, they are fully admitting that he was shot 3 times in the back, once going through the heart. We believe he was shot at least 9 times. But the FBI were also involved in that. So when we come back on the other side of the hour, I'd like us to address how law enforcement, including the FBI, thinks they can get away with anything. Folks, this is Chris Briels, former fire chief of Harney County, Oregon, and Maggie Rose will be right back on the other side of the hour. Good afternoon, folks, and this is Maggie Rose coming back with the new Concord Hour from the other side of the hour. We are talking right now with a very good friend of mine. He's become a very good friend during the dark days of what has happened prior to the murder of Lavoie and since the murder of Lavoie. And I think Chris would agree with me that we cannot let people forget that we have over 40 people that are political prisoners sitting in jails around this country, west of the Mississippi, because they were taking a stand for what they believe was a violation of people's property rights. And they are sitting as political prisoners, in many cases not being allowed to have the lawyer of their choice, no official charges being brought against them. Many attorneys who took on the case and took the money then decided they wanted to leave, saying, oh, well, this is over our heads, or you don't have enough money to pay us. Or they are afraid to take a stand for the Constitution because they're afraid that someone up above is going to take away their license to practice law. Chris Briels is the former fire chief up there in Harney County. He stood up to Steve Grasky and to the sheriff, and he also stood up to the FBI. Welcome back, Chris, to the show.
Hi.
Also, we would like to thank your lady and partner there. I heard her in the background. She has been very loving and very supportive through all this, including you've had some health challenges recently. And I'm hoping that a lot of what's going on in Harney County has not been affecting your health, but I suspect it probably has been, because I know it's been affecting the health of many other people as well.
Well, actually, there have been a lot of people in Harney County that got sick right after the occupation. I don't understand why, but a lot of people did. I don't know. Maybe it was just the level of stress. I don't know.
Now Now, from what I understand is, have you heard anything more? People have been asking me in my emails. We are aware of the fact that the Bundys were not intending to stay beyond the rally. Angie Bundy, Lisa Bundy, and Cliven Bundy's wife, Carol, have all personally come up in my show or told me that the husbands were due to come back Monday or Tuesday. We know that someone went to the rally and put a little suggestion in somebody's ear that, hey, if you want to continue your protest and do it without any backlash, there's a place that is pretty much vacant right now because of the holiday that's way out 30 miles away, in the high desert, and it's this open refuge there. The keys are on the front desk, of the office of the manager. The doors are open. All the vehicles are there. You can go out there and continue your peaceful civil disobedience protest out there. We believe it was a setup. Have you heard back anything more about that?
I feel everything in my heart that that's exactly what happened, that they were set up from the beginning. I have heard that the people were told when they went home for Christmas at the refuge, don't come back. Don't come back for, I think they told them 4 or 5 days, something like that. There had been no one at the refuge for 4 days. No one. Not even anybody to turn the lights on and off. The building had been left unlocked. The keys were there just exactly as you had said. They were set up.
Okay, so you're telling me that 4 to 5 days before the holiday, there was nobody there.
Yep.
Okay, so that means all these so-called government employees who were supposed to be at work every morning were basically taking an unsanctioned leave of absence or vacation that's not even registered on the paperwork. So 4 to 5 days before the January New Year's Eve holiday, which will be the 31st of December, 4 to 5 days before the 31st of December, 4 to 5 days before 1 January, there was nobody there, and they were told, after the holiday, don't come back on the following Monday.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a setup if I ever saw one.
Hammond Bundy never told anybody that you can't come back to work. I was out there several times, and I heard him praying for the workers, praying for everybody. He even prayed for the FBI. He just wanted a peaceful resolution to this.
Now, are you also aware of the fact that you and I were there with my husband, remember? And we were picking up the belongings of 2 or 3 individuals that had lent their items to be used by the Bundy people, but then they went back to their own homes either just before or just after Lavoie was murdered. And that when you and I were there meeting with the head of the BLM that allowed us down into the facility with his worker, and I can't remember his name right off the bat, maybe you can remember his name, he told us that there were so many things they did not know who they belonged to, that they were bagging them up in big, large, black contractors' garbage bags. Do you remember him saying that to you and my husband and myself?
Yes, I do remember that, but Maggie, I want to correct you. He was not the head of the BLM. He was the head of the Fish and Wildlife.
Oh, he was? Okay. But he had all the BLM and Fish and Wildlife working with him, right?
Right.
Okay, so he was the head of Fish and Wildlife. He was a national director for the West Coast, is that right?
I don't know if he's the national director for the West Coast, but I do know that he was over Oregon for sure.
Yeah, I know he's based out of Portland is what I understand.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but all these big, large garbage bags they threw everybody's stuff hodgepodge that they could not identify into these large bags. Now, isn't it interesting that later on, after the FBI went in there and decided to put holes in the walls and toss furniture around to make it look like that all the people that were at the refuge just trashed everything. Isn't it interesting that one of the pictures they put up on the internet for the American people to see on YouTube was a picture of all these large garbage bags tied up? And I know it was not garbage that the Department of Fish and Wildlife or the BLM or the FBI, that is not trash they all gathered up. That was actual people's belongings, but they were trying to make it look to the American people that this was trash that had been left all over the place. Isn't that interesting how by the visual eye they try to rewrite the narrative?
Well, Maggie, right after Ammon went out to the refuge, I did not know that he was going to be doing that. The Committee of Safety did not know. That caught us completely off guard. And what it did is it discredited the Committee of Safety right away. I understood what he did, but I didn't agree with it. And so I went to the refuge to say, what is going on? Why did you do this? When I got there were people cleaning everywhere. There was a huge dumpster, and they were hauling stuff out there from the dirt and disrepair that the refuge was in when they got there. So there's no way that the FBI or anybody else could have been hauling a whole bunch of garbage off that the Bundys left, because the Bundys had been cleaning it up. As I went to talk to Emmon, there was an electrician working, repairing an outside light. There were people fixing things all over the place. The place was in disrepair when they got there.
And that is what I understood. And as I told the people out there, my listening audience, I told them that I was actually reaching out to Angie Bundy, and she gave me the personal cell phone number of Shauna Cox. And Shauna Cox put me in touch with Ammon, and he asked me, through Shauna Cox, if I would bring rat poison and mice poison and traps out there, because rats and mice were eating holes through the walls. They were eating through the chairs that you would sit on. They were going through the paperwork that the BLM had out there and eating the glue on the back of some of these pamphlets and some of these materials. And so my husband and I purchased about $100 worth of rat poison and mouse poison. The reason why we did this is because the ranchers and farmers had already purchased everything in the county because it was winter. And you know when winter takes place, the rats and the mice come indoors. So all of the rat and mouse poison had already been purchased at all the stores in your locality, right? And that's why Ammon asked me from where I was living to travel 7-8 hours to where they were to bring them additional rat and mouse poison. When I got there, I saw people cleaning up. I saw people sweeping. Now, I got there on the 19th of January, and I stayed at a local hotel with my husband for 2 days. And each time we went down to visit the refuge, we saw people cleaning and sweeping and repairing and trying to beautify, at the same time not walking off of the path, so not to step in any of the so-called Indian heritage whatever. And I also know for a fact, as can be also substantiated by an ABC reporter that was embedded with the Bundys, that a blue garbage truck, a gentleman from your community who was a volunteer, was bringing a blue garbage truck at least one time a week to the refuge to pick up all the garbage and trash and refuse, including anything that was being thrown away from opening, cans of food and cereal boxes and whatever the people there were eating. So that trash was being hauled away at least once a week by one of your local people in a big blue garbage truck. And I think you know this is a fact as well.
Yes, ma'am. That's C&B Sanitary.
That was what?
C&B Sanitary.
Okay, and was he doing it volunteering, or was he getting paid by the Bundys?
I can't speak to that, Maggie. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
So for sure, I can't say.
So when the FBI is trying to state that the whole place was trash, we know that many of these people are Mormon. They're LDS. And they believe, many of them are Boy Scouts. And the one thing we learned as Boy Scouts is that if you haul it in, you haul it out. Now, you're not going to find, some of these people were Mormon. They were LDS. They were Eagle Scouts themselves. Many of them had been Boy Scouts and support the Boy Scouts of America. You are not going to find them just allowing people in their group to leave trash all over. So it makes sense that you saw, I saw, the ABC reporter saw, many people saw this trash truck coming onto the ground, picking up the trash, and hauling it out. So therefore, that right there shows the FBI is lying again. Now, can you share with us a little bit about anything else you know about the FBI, their illegitimacy while they were there in Harney County?
You mean other than when I exposed the two guys?
Yes.
They were just running around and fear. They were intimidating people. They had roadblocks set up. The buckets were thrown down on the ground and frisked and harassed just trying to feed their cattle. There are lots of stories that way. I went out there one day, I was out there helping people get stuff out of it. Just like I helped get a lot of stuff there with you and JC. I was going to help Lisa Bundy get Ammon's four-wheeler out of there. She called and she said, do you have a trailer that can haul a four-wheeler? And I said, yes. And I took it out there to meet her on a Friday. Well, all of the lawyers hadn't been there the day they were supposed to. There was one lawyer that hadn't shown up. And so he said, nope, nothing can be taken yet. So Lisa had turned around and came back to Burns, and I didn't see her. I went out there with my trailer, and it has a screened back gate on it, tailgate on it. You can see through it. I left the Narrows. I looked up and down Highway 205, which goes north and south, and I looked to the east and the west. There was no one coming from the refuge, no one coming from the Eagle's Nest area. I turned on there, and before I made it a mile, I had a black SUV come up on me, and I braced myself for a collision. They came on so fast, they were going to ram me. It had two antennas on it and a government plate, and the windows were blacked out on the sides and the back. They did not run into me, but they got close. Could not see their front bumper. I could see two guys in the rig, and they got up on me, and then they backed off, and then they'd come up, and then they would back off. They did that several times. I was going about 60 miles an hour. I slowed down to 50 miles an hour so that maybe they would just pass me. There were two other vehicles that did pass both of us. They continued to do that. I set my cruise control at 42 miles an hour is where it wound up being. I thought if they want to have fun, I'm going to let them have more fun than what they thought. And they followed me over 20 miles all the way to Burns, doing that same thing. They'd get right up on me, and then they'd back up. And then they'd come flying up, and then they'd back up. When I got close to Burns, I turned my left turn signal on, and I went to turn, and they went around, and then I backed back onto the highway, and I followed them into Burns, where I found them in a right-hand turn lane, and all of a sudden I'm alongside of them. And the guy turned, you could see his baseball cap, he turned to look at me, and I blew him kisses, and I smiled and I waved as friendly a manner as I could. Boy, that was a lot of fun. All they're trying to do is scare people, intimidate people, and it's wrong. And I'm not one that can be intimidated, and I don't get scared of much. You don't run into burning buildings if you're afraid.
Exactly. And, the thing is, as you know, I had my own situation with the FBI. I was put in touch with an FBI agent up in Portland, Oregon, and I'm not going to mention his name again. I've mentioned it before. I thought he was a good guy. He was Marine Corps. And he was involved with another situation that I was aware of. And when I found out this thing was going on down in Harney County, when I left there the 20th of January, I called him up. And I said, promise me you guys are not going to do another a Waco, another Ruby Ridge. And he promised me. He said that he was high enough up in the FBI where he knew everything that was going on and that he was monitoring the situation. Well, he then, it turned out, he actually went to Harney County. He was one of the FBI agents that was there. And I contacted him again, and I said, look, I know that Ammon's getting ready to leave. He wants to leave, but he wants to make sure they're safe. Would you please assure me that nothing bad will happen? And that my husband and I would like to go because of our background with the federal government. We used to work for the federal government, and we were both in the military as well. That I would like to go there and talk to the people, and we can make sure this ended in a peaceful way. And he said, we'll get right back with you. And he put me in contact with an agent in North Carolina, in Willingham, I guess it was, who also assured me they were going to get right back with me. What I did not know, when they did not ever get back with me, is that they were already planning that they were going to do a blockade and take out Lavoie. Both Governor Kate Brown, we've now got the emails between her and the White House, Governor Kate Brown and the White House, Valerie Garrett, who was keeping Obama and Hillary Clinton apprised of what was going on, basically they decided they had to stop those people from going to John Day in order to not talk about the Committee of Safety there or the Constitution. They, in one of their emails, they even said, Chris, we cannot let this toxicity about the Constitution, committees of safety, and about the land grab. We cannot let this poison, this toxicity, spread to other counties in Oregon. So I consider that Kate Brown has blood on her hands, not just Obama, not just Hillary, and it's not just the FBI, and it's not just the Oregon State Police, but the mercenaries that Kate Brown knows were sent by the Obama administration to Harney County to take out Lavoie because they figured they take him out and they grab Ammon and they put the whole thing to bed. Would you agree that that is the proper deduction?
Yes, I would. They did not want anyone else to stand up. They did not want anybody to know how much wool had been pulled over the United States' eyes. They didn't. Yeah, and it's clear that that's what was going on. They didn't want anybody else to stand up. And the reason that they've been being so horrendous to Ammon and all of the patriots that are in jail is they're trying to break them down. They're trying to get them to shut up and never say anything again. The problem is that there's a lot of people that are waking up and paying attention and starting to understand what's going on. I've been told that our version of the Constitution that we were handing out was wrong. Well, it's an exact copy of the original Constitution.
Right.
The government doesn't want you to understand your rights because they're busy behind your back taking them all away from you.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for coming to the end of the show. I'd like to invite you back next Tuesday if you have the ability, because I've got a bunch of questions that are coming at me right now. So if you can come back next Tuesday on the show, I would like to invite you back on the show next Tuesday. And anybody that wants to listen to a rebroadcast of this, you need to go to the New Concord Hour with Maggie Rose on YouTube. That, again, is the New Concord Hour with Maggie Rose on YouTube. And Bonnie Clay will be putting that up no later than tomorrow. Family and friends, that the Chief Chris Briels has been here on the Concord Hour. And Chris, are you Tuesday?
You were forced to take your stand. They're strangers.
Okay, thank you, folks. This is Chris Briels, former fire chief of Harney County, Oregon. Maggie Rose, I'm your host here on the Microfact, and we will see you all next Tuesday with Chief Chris Briels. Thank you, Chris. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Maggie. Stand tall. We all need to stand tall.
Agreed. Amen. Stand tall. We'll make sure we get our country back on track. God bless and good night.